Hey, it's Heidi from A Lively Hope. Welcome to week 4 of my year-long slow stitching project. I am still working on my small book. Here is the page we'll be using as the background today. I just keep thinking of running stitch ideas, and because there are just so many things we can do with it, I decided to do another one today. So for this, you will need your background and then another piece of fabric. You'll want it to be, it doesn't need to be as big as your page because we'll have some margin, some white space around it. This is how mine compares. This is a piece of thrifted linen that I have, and then I dyed it using my 8/10 paints. So this is a scrap that was left over. I'm using a larger piece of this for a landscape project that I'm working on, but this is just the remnant that I cut off of one of the sides. So I will be using this, and obviously it's bigger than the page now. I'm going to cut it to about here. And the only other thing you need, and this is even, it's not necessary, but it's how I prefer to do this process, and that is using a friction erasable pen, or you could use a water soluble pen. You'll see how I use that in just a second, and then of course your needle and thread and scissors. So this is another really simple project intended to just bring us some mindfulness and like a meditative practice. So let's flip the camera around and get started. All right, so I'm going to cut this right about here. So this I will save for another project, another day. I've chosen some thread that is not exactly the same. I would like it to show up, but pretty similar, light sky blue color. Okay, so I'm going to take my friction pen. This is erasable with heat. Specifically an iron is what I use. So I'm just going to do kind of a squiggle on this page. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to draw one line all over this page that will kind of intersect and double over on itself. I'm just kind of practicing right now to see what I want that shape to be like before I add anything. This is a small area to be working in. It's a lot easier to do a more random shape in a bigger area. I want it to look like just one line when I'm done. So I'm going to start right here. Just kind of sketching out a line. I'm trying to cover most of the space on the page. We will be cutting away around this, so I'll just go like that. That was kind of hard to see. This loops like this. This is going to come over here, I think, like that. Okay, this is imperfect, but that's fine. So next, I'm going to get my thread and I'm just going to follow this line with running stitch. I'm going to get 2 strands of my stranded cotton. And my needle. So we will just do a quick knot in the bottom of the thread. And I will take a sip of tea and then we will begin. Okay. It doesn't really matter where we start. I'm just going to start here. And all I'm doing is running stitch along this line that we drew. So this is always interesting. It's hard for me to predict what this shape will be, what it will look like, because after I'm done doing this running stitch, we'll go back in and cut away the excess, which may not make sense right at this moment, but you'll see. So this will look like one just continuous line of squiggle. Using the thread and fabric to make that continuous line. And then once we're done cutting away, you could go around and use a whip stitch or a blanket stitch around the edge to more firmly applicate it to the background. But I'm not going to do that today. I just want to have this be a fairly simple page and just call it good. This is going to be in my book, so it's not going to be used really in any way other than maybe the book will be looked through every once in a while. So this doesn't have to stand up to a lot of wear and tear or any, it's not like clothing where you'd need to make sure that it could be washed and worn. I've been having a lot of fun with these really simple pages. It's just such a good way for my brain to calm down a little bit. The meditative quality of running stitch on a couple of pieces of fabric is really beneficial for me. I am working through this quickly, but of course you could take your time with it and make it more meditative, if that's your style. It's been really fun to hear from you also as you're working through these projects. I hadn't really planned on making a way to showcase the projects that you do along with me. I guess I just hadn't really thought that far ahead. But I have had some requests for that, and I would love to hear what you think would be the best way to go about that. I know a lot of people do Facebook groups. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, to be honest, or social media in general. But I would love to see your work, so it might be worth it to do something like that. So let me know, do you think that Facebook is the best way to do that? Or do you have another idea? So I'm just turning this all around as I work on it. I don't keep it going in one direction. I just turn my work and continue this line. So it reminds me of a story from second grade. I'm 44 years old now, and I still think about this really often, which is kind of funny. But I was in second grade. We were doing an art project, and the teacher said, "Do you know that real artists never turn their work a different direction? They always keep it, up and down the proper way." And I remember at the time thinking, I don't think that's true. I think she was kind of calling us out for turning our pages around as we colored. But I also turn my work still when I'm drawing or doodling or even a fabric page with running stitch on it, and I turn as I go. So I think that second grade teacher was wrong. But maybe I am. What do you think? Am I wrong, or was she wrong? Now we're calling her out. I won't say her name. She was very nice, but maybe had a pet peeve of kids turning their pages for some reason. Okay, so we just have this little section left. It's been pretty quick so far. Normally I load up my needle with running stitch, but when I'm going around a curve, I generally do just 1 or 2 stitches at a time. It just helps the curve to be more smooth, and it helps keep the fabric from bunching or turning in a way that would make it so it doesn't lay flat when the piece is finished. Playing a little bit of thread chicken. Am I gonna make it? Oh yeah, totally make it. So that means I just used 1 length of this thread. Because once we finish this line, that's all the sewing I'll be doing, I think. Okay. So you can see a little bit better on the back what stitching I've done. I'm going to make a knot here. I'm just going through the bottom layer of fabric, so this won't be visible. And then I'll cut that off. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Now we're going to go in and cut away just kind of a swath. We're leaving the thread and a little bit of the fabric around it. Of course, you could be done here. Or you could fill in. Maybe we'll do that another day. But this is what I'm doing. So the edges will be pretty easy because they're not attached. I'm just going to try to keep an equal distance away from the thread. I want the thread to be the middle of this line that we're creating. And I'm trying really hard not to cut the background fabric. So I will just go all the way around the outside of this organic shape that we've created, keeping an equal distance from the thread line. This is where the edge is. I wish that was a little more curved, but it's not, and that's fine. Okay, so we've also got this that goes in. So I'm going to be really careful. I'm going to curve this really quick. And then just go in between these lines and cut out really loosely this shape. There's not a whole lot of extra space in here, just based on the shape that I drew. Okay, so now we'll go in and cut out these interior shapes, being careful to pull apart the fabric. I have found the easiest way to do this. Okay. Pulling it apart. I do not want to snip that background fabric, so I'm pinching just the blue fabric and cutting just a tiny snip in it. And then I'll stick my scissors in and follow again around. These smaller scissors, but I think they're less sharp, but I'm going to try them. Oof, they're not very sharp, but they're a little easier to manage in these interior shapes, probably. Nope, that's not working. Try these sharp ones again. All of these scraps could be used for another project. So I'll just keep doing the same thing. Pulling the fabric apart, snip just the top layer, hopefully, and cut away. Next one. Snip. Get my scissors in there. This is the first time you've done it. It might be a good idea to keep these crossover spaces bigger so it's not as fiddly to get the scissors in. Or I wish for you that you have small, sharp scissors. I have many, many scissors. But whether they're sharp or not is always a guessing game. So this will fray over time. I will encourage it a little bit. If you don't want it to fray, you could do some needle turn applique or some other form of keeping it from fraying. Okay, last one right here is the smallest one. that we are brave and we are courageous and we can try hard things. It's one of our family mottos, actually. Hellmans do hard things. Okay, let's try these guys. I am brave and courageous, and I need smaller scissors. Ah. All right, there is our completed page. Now, as I'm looking at this, of course, you could fill in with running stitch any of these spots or just around the outside. You could do any number of things. You could paint in here. I'm really enjoying the simplicity of this. So I think I will leave it like this for now. Which way do you think it goes? Like this? Or like this? Thank you for joining me for another episode of Slow Stitching. I'd love to see this and hear your suggestions for where we can share the pages we complete. See you next week.